the end part, man. When did you finally get on the air?
I got on the air because I kept making tapes. Just like I told you, I made a tape for 106. I kept making tapes for GCI's program there. He's like, make me another tape, man. So I would make one like maybe once a month. I would go into the music director's office, get CDs, borrow them, and then I would go in and you had the FM studio, the AM studio. Then there was a third studio. It was kind of like, I don't know what they used it for. Sometimes they would use it for pre-recorded programs, but I would go in there and practice.
Mm-hmm.
And I would pretend like I was on the air, and sometimes I would do the same thing like 20, 30 times in a row. Just, I didn't like the way I said my name right there. I didn't like, I would just keep at it. And then I kept giving them tapes. And then there was a rap show on Saturday nights, and they were looking for a co-host.
Okay.
So I made a tape for that, and they listened to it, and they was like, well, we don't really think you fit this show.
Yeah.
But you good enough to, maybe get a shot on there. So it was like, okay, so they set it up. I remember it was like a 4th of July I was going to be on.
Mm-hmm.
And
everybody went off?
No. Well, I mean, generally on holidays, the full-time people are off anyway.
Okay.
And then the people who work weekends and what have you, they fill in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what ended up happening, one of the guys who was on every day, Joe Soto, he's on V103 now. At the time, he was using the name DJ Armstrong because they made him use a different name, which is a whole different radio story right there about
that guy's from New York. He's Asian. DJ Armstrong.
So his wife had a baby, and he had to take off for the whole week. He did overnights, like 2 to 5, 2 to 6 in the morning, something like that. And so they had somebody to fill in for that whole week, except that very night.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, this will be your audition. I was like, okay, bet. So I went in there and I was already had a job working in the studio every night running the Slow Jam show. I wasn't talking. The guy who was doing the show wasn't even actually here. He was supposed to be here, but he was under contract to a station in Philly, and they wouldn't let him out. So he ended up like they loved him so much they had him pre-record his voice, and they would send him what songs was gonna be on. So somebody had to be in the studio to run all of that. And the guy who was originally doing it, he had never been on the air, so he didn't really understand how to make it work, make it sound like it was really, the guy was really there. So they hired me to do that because they found a different job for him. And they hired me to do that. So once I was in there doing that, I was already comfortable in the studio running the equipment. So now it was just, okay, the next step is you're going to be on the air, you're going to talk. So once I got my shot, I didn't miss because I was straight. Because generally, when you do a radio show, the most intimidating part is the equipment.
Yeah,
you go in there, you look at all them buttons and knobs, you be like, oh, But I was already past that point. So all I had to do was just do the show. So I did the show, and it went well enough for me to get another shot and another one. And eventually, I ended up with my own show because somebody left, and it was like an opening. It was Friday night going into Saturday morning, like 3 to 6 in the morning. And I had tried to get the spot once before. And I had to audition. It was like serious competition. I remember we talking like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning on a weekend. You would think they'd just be like, okay, go ahead. At that time, it was so many hot people you had to audition. I had to go up against. It was Sam Silk, First Lady. It was a guy named Frankie J who used to host the rap show.
Wow.
And I wasn't even going to get a shot, but I asked for a shot just to try. I knew they weren't going to give it to me at that point, but I was like, I want to let it be known that I'm aggressive and I'm going to go for it. I didn't get it then, and then later on I got it. And then it ended up being a show I did called The After Set. And at that time, I used to go out a lot. I mean, I still go out sometimes, but I used to notice, like, when the party would be letting out, people would turn the radio on. They'd be in the car.
Yep.
But whoever was on would always sound like they didn't want to be there. Like, man, I'm on, it's late, da-da-da-da-da. Ain't nobody listening. And I knew better. So what I did is I constructed the show so that when it first started, I used to do a thing called the Friday Night Hotspot. Call me, let me know where the party was at. People would be like, I went to such and such club, man, it was jumping. Or my boy had something at his house. Or sometimes people like, well, me and my man, we did this, we had our own hotspot, whatever. And then the second hour I would do like a topic because that was real big at the time. I would do like research, go to Jet magazine. I'd be like, 10 years ago this week, Luther Vandross was on the cover of Jet talking about how he lost 100 pounds and how people treat him better. And I would flip that and be like, well, do people treat you better if you lose weight or something? And people would call in and make their comments or whatever, and it was kind of hot. And then the last hour I structured that to where it was geared towards working people because people was getting up going to work. So I had a hot show. Even I wasn't necessarily a hot personality yet, but I knew how to structure a show, and that made me more confident.
Made it way more interactive. When you make it interactive, then you know people listening, you feel more confident. So.
Exactly, because that's what I went in there to do. Because being in college, I probably got about 15 phone calls in 3 years.
Wow, I feel you on that.
I was giving away prizes. What nobody called.
Dude, I got only the most calls we ever got when we gave away TI tickets.
Really?
And when Fly City's on air, so you know, Fly City they always get a lot of scholars.
Right. So I mean, once I got in there and I was able to come up with features to get people involved, the phone lines rang. It was like being on in the afternoon because I was entertaining people, and people appreciated that because everybody who had been in that spot before me was just kind of coasting because they didn't think anybody was listening.
Wow, man, Marcus Chapman, how he got on, man? I let him. We gonna have to go on OT today.